congrats on that performance. What did you like the most about it?
I suppose the one thing I enjoyed the most is just how we handled, the crowd, because it's a big learning curve for South African sides when they play in France. It's unique, and especially this region. This Basque region is Bayonne, Biarritz. It's generally a very, very difficult place to come and play good rugby. So I would think the most important thing that I really enjoyed is the way we embraced the atmosphere and the way that we started. I mean, we also defended for so long. They got 3 points, but yeah, I just enjoyed the way that the guys showed that they want to play, want to do well in this competition as well.
You went in with quite a loaded bench, obviously to try and sort of put in an 80-minute performance, and that's exactly what happened. But how did you feel sort of like in the first half when they seemed to have rolling subs at one stage?
Yeah, I did it also not because I want a strong bench. It was also based on what kind of injuries we've had along the season. And, if you consider a guy like Ruan Nokia hasn't played much rugby. Last week, I think he played 30 minutes. This week, he played 40 minutes. A guy like Huissen's been out for a long, long time. Today, he played like 25 minutes or whatever. So it's also about managing who's come back. Cameron's come back from an injury as well, a bang on his back. So it was a little bit of mix and match, as I said, during the week, but it was also a way of us making sure we can manage players going into. We've got now, I think if we play every game, there's 10 fixtures left, and it'll obviously a massive balancing act about how you get the best players on the field, into all these games, because they now become knockout games.
You partly answered the question. I was going to say you bought yourself another week in Europe. Okay, are you going to Edinburgh this week, which is probably not a bad travel? Yes. But how does this impact in terms of your selection? Do you go with your strongest team every week, or do you still sort of manage the player load?
Well, what we did, Jan, is we only brought 30 players this week, and the reason was because we didn't know how long we'd be here. It could quite possibly have happened that we win, Lions win, we go back to Loftus next week. And then the likelihood of having to have extended players here would be meaningless. As it stands now, we got Edinburgh. If we beat Edinburgh, then we go to the semi-finals, which means another week on our tour. And then I'm sure, well, no, I am sure that we will then bring in some extra players anyway. So as it stands now, a couple of guys will probably join us. I'll do the review now in terms of injuries, and some guys will join us next week. And that'll help us also to have more players available for training. But the initial thought was we'll bring a smaller squad for the first week and see how things pan out.
You also touched earlier on, you're glad the guys experienced that Basque atmosphere and how to handle those crowds and how to handle the situation. But your team played a bit more like the dynamic Bulls we've seen earlier. It's away from almost that all the mistakes you made. It's a bit more clinical.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And so I suppose I would also admit is the way we scored. We scored some wonderful tries tonight as well, and that is also very good for us because it'll give us confidence. Especially we didn't have Kane, Kirtley, Willie, and those are three of our sort of Springboks that play in our back three. So to get a result like that on the way we played is fantastic. But I can't underplay the fact that when you've come to the Basque region and you come to Bayonne, Biarritz, this region of France, it's rugby country, and it's you can feel it. You can feel it when you walk in the streets. You can feel it in the hotel. You can feel it in the stadium. You can, and I think it's important for our players because a lot of them, this is the first time they've been to this part of the world, and it's important for them to experience it, and not only experience it, to embrace it and play like they did today, because I'm sure this will be a wonderful memory for them as well.
I know you said you're still going to go look at your injury situation, but is there any obvious problems that you're facing?
No, there isn't. And what I meant by that is I also just want to have a look and see how the combination works for Edinburgh. So, and I'm not talking only about injuries here, Jan. It's injuries back home in terms of guys coming back from injury. Will they be ready? Should they come? Will they be able to play on tour, etc., etc.? Because I don't want to bring players here if they're just going to be extras to train with and they can't play any rugby.
Jake, congratulations. If you were offered this
Thank-
result in the manner that it was played on Wednesday, would you have accepted it?
Yeah, I would have. I mean, I think that some of the staff were saying to me that I was very tense in the last sort of 20 minutes of the game, and the reason is I just know how things can turn out in these games. You know, I mean, you literally saw that with the last play of the game. You know, we got a turnover and then a penalty that could quite easily have been a line break and a try, and that would have meant they scored twice in 3-4 minutes. So. Yeah, Carl, I mean, it's difficult to win in France. It's very, very difficult to win a club game here. Yes, they made a lot of changes, and obviously they didn't put on their best, you know, well, not the best players we thought they would play. That couple of guys are rotated. But saying that, I mean, they're unbeaten at home. They haven't lost a game. That's the first game they've lost this year. So, you know, that's because the crowd, the atmosphere, the whole build-up, I mean, the media here are rugby crazy too. You know, it's not a place where you can be in a small town and no one talks about rugby, and that's why I would have grabbed this result, because, and I would have grabbed it too because we played like we did. You know, it doesn't look like we got any injuries, and we can now build on that momentum into the next couple of rounds, and that means Edinburgh, and then it means Munster, and it means Glasgow, which are, I mean, those are three massive clubs that you have to beat in the next month.
What would your walk-ons be for the week to meet Edinburgh?
I think the most important thing will be to recover now. And I know it's because it's, you know, it takes its toll. We've just traveled. And the nice thing is we're basing ourselves here. So we're not flying early to Edinburgh. We're basing ourselves here. That was always the plan, is that we were going to use this as a wonderful opportunity to refresh, recover, and also build a bit of team spirit. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of days, because, as I said, we could quite easily have been out of the competition, and then, you know, we're still alive. And as I always say to you, Carl, it's wonderful to have a club and a team that's still alive in a competition, because, you know, it's 3 games left, and hopefully we play our best rugby in the next 3 games.
Just interesting enough, this Bayonne team yesterday at the press conference, you were wondering about, you know, what team they were going to pick in the likes. How do you know, preparing for Edinburgh? At least you know them, you know the players, you know what to expect, you know Sean Everett very well. How much of a difference is it, you know, approaching a team that you know well compared to a team that you didn't know that well, like Bayonne today, and that you still managed to beat?
And yeah, that's probably why I made the comment that the last 20 minutes I was stressing a bit. It's because, you know, you can know as much about every team, but the one thing about the French teams, you just, I mean, they could bring guys on and you never heard of them, but they could be, you know, young Anton Duponts, or they could be young Cameron Honeycombs, you know, and it doesn't mean because he's come on and you haven't seen him that he can't play. So it is difficult when you play in the French, you play against the French team. I mean, the depth they have, the squads they have, the budgets they have, etc., is it's difficult because they don't always play those guys, and they play them in certain games, and so yeah, I was a bit surprised that they made as many changes as they did, but it worked in our favor. But credit to them, because literally until the last play of the game, we could have, like, I wouldn't say lost, but we could have drawn the game and gone into injury time, which says a lot about, you know, how they've grown as a club. I mean, I would be privy enough to tell you that there wasn't long ago when I was in France that there was talk between Bayonne and Biarritz merging, because I didn't think that there was a, you know, strong enough team in this region. And you saw today, I mean, they're definitely strong enough to play in the European Cup game. They're definitely strong enough to beat any of the teams that come here. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a positive performance, and a positive spin-off for us going into these next couple of games.
One thing that I noticed today is all the set pieces went very well, like a well-oiled machine. No line-out hiccups, no scrum hiccups, nothing. Everything went perfectly according to plan. A good sign of a team well coached, Jack. And so all I want to say is congratulations. Well earned this victory.
No, thanks, Envia. I mean, it's not, I mean, obviously, Andries Becker, lineouts, the attack, Chris Rousseau, defensively, you know, we were solid. I mean, that team can score points. So it's a great compliment from you, Envia. And as I said, the bottom line is for our coaches to take as much positiveness as they can with the players, because it's not going to get any easier now. I mean, if I say to you, Edinburgh, Munster, Glasgow, then semi-final if you're still alive, and then, then 2 games at home, and then might have to travel again and play URC and obviously EPCR finals away. So it's a massive boost for us as a coaching staff and as a group that we can be away from home and get a result like that.
Good luck next week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coach Jake, congratulations on the win today. I mean, as a former player, I know what you guys achieved today, and it's remarkable. I just have a question for you about Marcel Coetzee, who obviously was man of the match tonight, had a standout performance. And I know we've had this conversation in the past where we show how important it is to get our best players back into South Africa, and those guys to obviously play week in, week out. His performance tonight is obviously man of the match, but there was other guys that also performed quite well. But how important do you think his performance was tonight to obviously win this game in France, which not a lot of teams can obviously accomplish? Is that kind of the way that we start looking at rebuilding our South African franchises by bringing all of our players back?
Yeah, Ronaldo, I mean, I got to say, he played number 8. He's generally played open side flanker, so he played number 8. And that was, again, because we tried a combination of Bayonnais and Marco together, which I thought from an age profile, from an experience profile, from a toughness profile was exactly what we needed today. And for him to get man of the match was obviously outstanding. And don't underestimate, I think you'd also know, Ronaldo, that the thing you can't measure is what it does to the opposition when they see those kind of players on the team sheet. They saw him in Ulster. They saw him when he was in the Springboks. They saw him when, he was at the Sharks. They know he is. It's not like he's just arrived. And, that is the kind of confidence that teammates get, but also you get because you can sense that the opposition know, and you saw tonight. I mean, every time he got across the gain line, he was definitely, for me, the man of the match, even from our side, from our point of view. So it is something that I keep reminding you guys is we need the caliber of those players. If you're going to play in these big competitions, that's what happened today as well. Imagine Cameron's a Springbok, came off the bench. Ruan Okier's a Springbok, came off the bench. Jan-Hendrik Wessels, a Springbok, came off the bench. Ambrose Papier, Springbok, came off the bench. Goosen off the bench as a Springbok. I mean, if you can have that every week where you can have, 6, 7, 8 guys on the bench that are international players, then that's the only way I think that you're going to get to the back end of every competition when you're competing at this level.
And just a last question. Obviously, you guys have a longer tour now, which makes it a lot more challenging. Where is your kind of head at in terms of giving more guys opportunities in the next couple of weeks when the teams might not be as competitive as you think? And then, just going to the last stretch of the Challenge Cup and then obviously URC.
Yeah, so quickly, the first bit is we always were going to spend 4 weeks here. Even if we had lost today, we wouldn't have gone home. We would have stayed here for a week and prepared for the URC. So a 4-week tour, the only way it will extend longer than 4 weeks if we win next week. And then obviously there'll be decisions to be made in terms of how we can add to our group, who we need to rotate, et cetera, et cetera. But it was always a 4-week tour. And in terms of changing, I've done it the whole year. We'll keep rotating where we need to. We'll keep putting players in and around the group that are going to be able to help us stay fresh for the next 10 fixtures. And as I said, if we play every game, win every game, there's 10 fixtures. I think there's three EPCR games, and then there's 4 pool games and 3. So 10 fixtures, basically 10 Saturdays. We've got to try and get everyone fit and available hopefully for all 10 of those games.
Hi, Jack. Well done again. I don't think everybody quite understand that crowd because it seemed like whenever they got loud, that's when Bayonnais responded and really got going again. So just in terms of that, I mean, a number of you younger guys also stepped up. I thought Jay van Heerden really came of age today. That was probably his best performance for you guys. And also Zach Berger reminded you of his quality as well.
Yeah, Ashfaq. I mean, and I got to, referees get criticized so much, and I'll tell you what I really enjoyed today is that referee looked I mean, not looked. He reffed like a test referee. He wasn't sucked into any of the things that he could have been sucked into. And I don't want you to put words in my mouth, guys, but I'll just say that when you on the side of the field and you pick up the whole vibe, it's very, very, I suppose, difficult and intimidating for a referee to listen to all that and still be clear-minded. So often as coaches, we always begrudge the referee, and we always find ways in which the referee makes calls or doesn't make calls. And I've got to say, that I thought today was outstanding. The same referee had us against Cust, and we lost to Cust. So it's not just because we're winning. I think he was exactly again against Cust the same to us, and the same in the fixture. And as I said, it's often we criticize, but today I thought he was outstanding. I thought that he handled those situations well. He was very clear. Yellow card, high tackle. No yellow card, playing the guy in the air because both contesting. There was no discussion. It was clear, concise. And as I said, I would like to publicly just say we were very, very happy with the way that he refereed, because he could quite easily have been sucked into all the things in and around that fixture.
And just quickly on Jeff and Zach.
Yeah, Ashfaq. I mean, I've been saying it for a long time that that we got to get more and more depth. I mean, Jeff's come on leaps and bounds, calling the line out now, and I'm sure he's going to get better. He had a guy like Ruan Nokia coming on at halftime, and therefore then he had to make a call and obviously be a bit more aware, because he had another jumper that can also call the lineouts. But you're right. I mean, him and Zach, and that's not singling them out. I think everybody, I mean, even Devon and Sergil and Strevino at times were much better than they've been in previous games, because they're getting more experience and because they're getting confidence that the group in and around them are making them better. So credit to the coaches, as I said, credit to the players that are coming in, and as it's a nice place to be where we are now. We got, as I said, we've got a lot of nice rugby to happen, and we've got a lot of opportunities to come up for us, and our job is just to make sure that we take those opportunities.
Just lastly, Jake, in terms of that composure that the guys showed when you sort of got the physical the hand over them, you're winning scrum penalties and that, and just sometimes it didn't convert into points, but the guys stayed patient, and eventually those tries came, and as you said earlier, some wonderful touches there and some great finishes.
Yeah, Ashfaq. I mean, I was a little bit tense when we got that turnover at the line out, and we could have kicked them down the field. And then we turned the ball over on the edge there when I think it was Stedman, whatever, held on to it on the halfway line. But, that you can't get everything spot on. I think that obviously that'll be something we talk about, is if there's 3-4 minutes left, there's no reason away from home to be brave and try and hold on to the ball. So, but collectively, and as you say, if I look at the whole game, the way we managed it, the way we handled the pressure, the way we defended, the way that our set piece operated, as you earlier said, there were a lot more positives to this fixture than there were negatives. And I repeat myself, it's wonderful. I've been coaching a long time. To win here, feel the vibe, afternoon game, supporters outside, can only do us well now as we prepare to go into the next rounds of both competitions.